would you do if someone secretly renamed your newborn child? The day my son was born, I gave him a name that carried my entire past. Ezra wasn't just a beautiful name, it belonged to my grandfather, the man who raised me after I lost my parents. He was the closest thing I'd ever had to a father, and naming my son after him meant everything. My husband, Devin, loved the idea from the beginning. At the hospital, his parents smiled politely when we introduced our baby. Ezra, my mother-in-law Patricia, repeated with an odd smile. I thought nothing of it. Soon I noticed she never actually used his name. She always called him the baby. Whenever I corrected her, she'd laugh it off as if forgetting his name wasn't important. Then I found something that changed everything. While looking for diapers in Patricia's bag, I discovered our birth certificate paperwork. It had already been filled out. The baby's name wasn't Ezra. It said Richard Ezra Morrison. Even worse, Patricia had written herself as the child's mother. I confronted her immediately. She didn't apologize. Instead, she calmly said Richard was a proud family name and Ezra would make a better middle name. I reminded her we had never discussed changing anything. She waved me off, saying I was being emotional and that her husband deserved a grandson carrying his name. That's when I realized this wasn't confusion. It was a plan. Richard had already ordered business cards calling my 3-week-old son Richard R. Morrison Jr. Patricia was introducing him to neighbors as Little Richie. She even had a personalized baby blanket embroidered with that nickname. When I showed everything to Devin, he was horrified. His parents had convinced him I'd agreed to reconsider the name later. The fake paperwork proved otherwise. That same evening, I overheard Patricia talking on the phone. She laughed while saying they couldn't let us burden the baby with such a ridiculous name. Then she mentioned Richard had already spoken with a lawyer about changing it because judges usually sympathize with emotional new mothers. I quietly recorded every word. The next morning, I went straight to the Vital Records office and officially filed Ezra's real birth certificate before anyone else could interfere. Afterward, I contacted Devin's uncle Marcus, a respected family attorney. When he heard the recording, he didn't hesitate. He called it forgery, fraud, and a serious attempt to interfere with our parental rights. His advice was simple: save every piece of evidence and keep them away from our son. When Patricia and Richard arrived for their usual visit, I met them at the front door. Holding the forged application in my hand, I calmly asked them to explain it. Patricia rolled her eyes and insisted families shouldn't fight over something so small. I looked her straight in the face. Families don't forge legal documents. Then I made myself perfectly clear. You won't see Ezra again until you apologize and recognize that his name is Ezra. She laughed. You can't keep grandparents away over a name. I closed the door. Watch me. For the next 6 months, they tried every possible way to pressure us. Unexpected visits. Relatives calling nonstop. Even Devin's siblings accused me of destroying the family over something insignificant. Then Patricia took things even further. She filed for grandparents' rights, claiming we were unfit parents who had unfairly cut them off because of a harmless disagreement. Inside the courtroom, I presented everything: the forged birth certificate, the recorded phone call, pictures of blankets, gifts, and printed items using the wrong name. Patricia proudly explained they only wanted what was best for little Richie. The judge interrupted. What is this child's legal name? Patricia froze. Finally, she admitted it: Ezra. The judge dismissed the case immediately. He explained that attempting to alter legal records and ignore parental authority justified restricting contact, not expanding it. Outside the courthouse, Patricia shouted that I'd stolen her grandson. I calmly answered with the only response she deserved. I didn't take your grandson. I protected my son. That happened 3 years ago. Ezra starts preschool next month. He proudly knows the stories of the great-grandfather whose name he carries, and every day he reminds me why I stood my ground. Patricia still mails birthday cards addressed to Richard. Every single one is returned, unopened.